Already Ted Wade in that two truck there all over the back bumper. Brady LaBeouf, he got a really good jump off the restart here, and it looked like he was going to take a look to the inside there in 3 and 4, but it looks like he backed out at the last minute, Kenneth.
So Wade will hold on to second. Dittmer falls to third, and the two truck trying to catch up to LaBeouf, your race leader. First side-by-side battle is just on the latter half of the top 10 as Taylor Peacock working underneath the 87. Justin Lumpkin, Michael McKinnon had forced his way underneath there as well. I think they have simmered through single file. I think they'll go side-by-side around the top 10. Indeed, they will. James Morris, Cody Knott in it as well. That battle around for position, but Brady LaBeouf holding strong into turn 1. Ted Wade, though, trying to catch up.
Yeah, Ted Wade really had that early challenge for Brady right off the restart, but now Brady's been able to open himself up to a few car lengths lead here as it looks like we're under yellow again, Kenneth.
We are. One truck spun around. That is the 4 machine of Adam Newbert. It looks like Lucas Whitehead. We saw him involved in the opening lap start crash, and the 88 in trouble, lined up just alongside those pit barrels there. That is the start basically of the inside safety barrier on the back straightaway. So we'll see what happened to the 4 truck, and there was contact that sent him around. It was Adam Cantwell in the 8. I got into the rear end as it looked like the 4 was coming back down the racetrack. And we'll talk about this a little bit, Ian. The diamond approach that you can take here at Martinsville. You swing up high in the middle and then arc it back down for the exit. I think the 4 was just trying to do that, arc it down for the exit out of turn 2, but Cantwell was too close to the rear bumper, made the slight contact, and around he went. I'm not exactly sure how Whitehead was involved, whether he had some help, and it looked like he did, trying to avoid the incident. Slowed down for it was a 29 of Keith Bradley that got into the rear side and sent him into the pit barrels.
Yeah, diamond in the corner, and then also too, especially on the restarts we're going to have in this race, is it's so hard to keep an eye on both the truck in front of you and then also the truck behind you as well in the rear view mirror. So it's going to be kind of tough to balance both of those as a driver and be able to keep your eye on everything. And I think it's just a little bit combination of the diamonding of the corner, as you said, Kenneth, and then just the other truck as well running out of room there. I don't think anything was intentional at all, especially this early, but there's just not a lot of room to race here at Martinsville, and you'll see things like that happen.
It's the problem of being in a place where nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Everyone's packed in together. You make a mistake, somebody's going to be there to try and pick the pieces up, and then you get those places where if gap car and then, or if gap truck, as I should say tonight, and then they try to force their way in, and we see those little contacts that send the driver around. For the 4 of Adam Newbert, he will be the first one on 1 lap down based on the caution, but because he's in front of the leaders, he will get the wave round. Our first truck officially 1 lap down or more was the second one involved in that recent yellow, the 88 of Lucas Whitehead. He has not had a good start to this race whatsoever. He is also joined multiple laps down by Stephen Thomas, who is 7 laps down and counting, and of course the 1 machine who was involved in the first incident and got sideways going to the green flag. Morales now 10 laps down and counting. So we will get the wave around here for the number 4 truck for Brady LaBeouf. Already a good start. I can't say though, Ian, that Ted Wade was a little impatient there in a way. He was faster than your race leader, setting laps faster than the 9 machine, and you could tell he wanted to be up front early. He wanted to get those stage points when the caution comes out at lap number 40, and he was doing a lot of good work to start.
Well, and I think you touched on a little bit earlier as well, kind of how important track position is going to be here tonight at Martinsville. We've already seen, I think, 2 cautions, so I think we're going to continue to see cautions, as I kind of alluded to in the pre-race, that if we see one, we're going to see a few, because these restarts are just treacherous for all these drivers to navigate. It doesn't matter how talented you are out here. It's a hard place to race at, especially with all those trucks around you, and really difficult to get yourself settled into a rhythm. And we're at Martinsville where the speeds don't get that high, but if you get stuck up there on the outside line, Kenneth, I've never been freight trained faster at a racetrack than I have here at Martinsville.
Yeah, the outside line is tough. You're really going to have to pinch the driver down there if you want to have any chance of getting that exit speed out. And the pace truck will make its way down to the entrance of pit road. It'll be Brady LaBeouf and Ted Wade, the first 2 to see the green flag on a restart. Lap number 17 of 175. A sluggish start by your leader, but caught Ted Wade off guard, sent him into a wiggle, and now here comes Tyler Dittmer back to the inside for second.
Yeah, it looks like Wade really spun the tires there on the restart, which is also easy to do, and we see another yellow come out. But as I was alluding to earlier when that incident we had on the restart, is you want to start in first gear here at Martinsville to really get that jump, but it's a lot of RPMs getting put down on the pavement and very difficult to try to get the truck cleanly out of that restart.
So was Torrey Thompson involved in the caution this time by? This was basically at the rear of the entire field going into turn 1. And you watch there that bright orange and white truck going into the first corner, trying to split it 3, but the 4 machine of Adam Newberg, we saw him spun around out of turn 2 to bring out the recent caution before that, and just got into the inside there. I think just overbraked a little bit and did not expect Thompson to dive that low and arc it that way into the first corner. Obviously, a lot of these guys in the rear are trying to be as careful as possible, but braking miscommunication is a thing at a track that does rely on these heavy braking zones. So Thompson around, and he will be the wave around here. Adam Newberg, we can officially classify him as 1 lap down. So just a single truck incident, single truck spin there brings us under yellow again, and already we're halfway through stage 1.
Yeah, halfway through stage 1, and yeah, you were talking about it. None of these guys are trying to cut each other off, especially early in this race. But these cars also don't have brake lights as well, so these trucks don't have brake lights. So when you're going down into the corner, the only real judgment you have is the truck nosing over into the corner. And like you said, a little bit of braking miscommunication, and then if someone's stuck down there on the bottom line, really hard to get the truck slowed down and make that corner safely. And that's kind of what you saw there, was guy pinched down on the bottom and then another truck trying to make the corner on the normal line. And yeah, 2 trucks don't fit in one spot, Kenneth.
You know, I don't think there's anything more scary than to dive into a corner and you think you have your braking point nailed down, and then somebody in front of you takes the corner more conservatively and you see them slow down way in front of you, and then by the time you're approaching them at such a high speed, it's so tough to avoid. You're really gonna have to swerve in a split second, or you just end up packing it into the rear end of the other driver. We see that a lot at a track like Martinsville, and even at others, even the road courses that have heavy braking zones. You're going to have drivers who want to go in a little bit earlier because they don't think they can make the corner that deep, or they're not confident in their ability to send it that far in, and maybe the guy behind them does, and then you just have that traffic jam. It just reminds me of Miami. I think I feel right at home here in Martinsville. It's just pack in, right on each other, stop and go, stop and go. It's perfect.
Oh, and it really is a great track, though. I mean, we've had a lot of cautions here so far, but this is really a great racetrack, and I think these guys will settle down a little bit in the coming laps, and we'll see some great side-to-side racing and some aggressive moves here. But right now, it's just these drivers trying to get themselves settled into a rhythm, and as I mentioned earlier, Kenneth, it's just so tough when you're restarting over and over again, and you have all the trucks packed as tightly as we do.
That's definitely true. You don't want to be in that situation where you're just having to be full throttle out of the corners and on the straightaways, and then just trying to get the muscle memory working, and then the caution comes out, and then you have to basically just readjust and try to remember that too. We've seen multiple times before where you see drivers get into a rhythm, a caution comes out, and then it's so hard for them to get back into that rhythm, or they try something different because they overthink how the rhythm was going and how it got interrupted. We'll see if that's the case. The caution flag has been extended. We were supposed to go green flag racing this time by, but race control has decided to wave it off this time through, I think just to get everybody back in. And I think they also have assessed some end-of-line penalties to follow as well. So we're just going to have everybody packed in once again, similar to one of our last cautions where the lap cars and the guys on pit road were just way too far away from that main pack. And obviously you want to have everybody on the same level playing field to go back on the restart. So this time we should be going back green. Sun has already set here in Martinsville, Virginia. We started just a couple of hours ago in sim around, I'd say 6 o'clock, 7 p.m. in sim time Eastern. Now we're already into 8:54, so into 9 o'clock, and the sun is already setting, so the lights have flickered on here from Martinsville Speedway, and the track temp has remained at a crisp 69 degrees. We'll see if it drops any further than that. Late race restart again here for Brady LaBeouf going in at turn 1, and this time it's a better jump for Ted Wade on the inside of row number 2. Gets Tyler Dittmer for second, and the whole field will try to settle themselves through back to turn 3.
Yeah, first 5 here have started to make it through quite nicely, but there's a little bit of a stack up, 6 on back, and we see a couple of trucks trying to navigate their way through there, but early lead for Brady LaBeouf here on this green flag run. Was able to get a really good jump on that restart there, Kenneth.
We'll see, though, if Ted Wade can get to the inside, and he has moved his nose down there out of turn 2. A solid exit for the Chevy Silverado, but just cannot find the space to keep himself down there in turn 3. Ted Wade is there, and he is on his way to P1. LaBeouf just has to hold on defensively. Tyler Dittmer is on the backside of this, so if you don't look out now, the 34 may have something to say. If these guys do go side by side, they have sort of created a gap between themselves and the 81 of Taylor Peacock, himself in a battle with the 12 of Jose Castellanos. So we'll see if they end up catching up to your top three, but the top three in their own league right now. And really the first side-by-side battle you'll see throughout the field is one for around the top 10. I think Joey Doucette and Jose Luis Rivera going at it for P9.
And we also see the 48 truck there, Robert Richards, and the 47 and James D. Morris battling each other there too. And like I said, these drivers really want to get themselves settled down into the bottom line and then try to chip away from there. And nothing against any of these guys here, but you really don't ever practice the lines that aren't your normal racing lines because you really want to get those nailed down throughout the week. So kind of interesting when you get into these race situations and you're possibly running the outside line or maybe even just a line that's slightly offset from what you're used to. It does take some adjustment, and I think that's why we saw a lot of these early cautions, Kenneth, was just drivers trying to figure out where they're at on the track. But now that everybody's kind of settled in a little bit here, I think we'll start to see some green flag runs.
That's definitely true. And also when you build up into that rhythm, there also could be the factor of drivers in the front saying, hey, maybe I could take this corner a little deeper than I used to. Maybe I could arc it in a different way. And, you know, maybe adjust in that way as well, even if they're not side by side. Although you do make a good point. If you're side by side, you're on the outside or you're on the inside, and being forced so low down there and you can't arc it as wide as maybe you would like to, then you do have to make those adjustments, and it is hard to manage around that. Here's a battle around 22nd. This is Brian Abbott weaving up high. That's the 00 of Huck Wigington to the very bottom. Jonathan Munda in the 15 on the backside of this conversation. So we'll see if we can do anything in the background, but they're still door to door. They're trying to catch up to Matt Rudder and Derek Kilgore, 21st and 20th, but the gap is growing in that respect. And already, Ian, as we're closing in on the final 8 laps of stage number 1, the leaders are catching some lap traffic here at the short tracks. You're going to have this happen. It's Christopher Blanchard and Torrey Thompson going side by side, and your leaders are already closing in.
You read my mind, absolutely, Kenneth. I was just going to mention that Brady LaBeouf has gotten himself into a comfortable little bit of rhythm here, and the only thing that's really going to give him a challenge as we come to the end of the stage. We've got a spinner off at 2 now.
Yeah, Thompson sideways at a turn 2. That is going to bring the caution. I'm not sure whether that will signify the end of the stage. It looks to be a little too early for that to be the case. But Torrey Thompson went for a solo truck spin, just lit up the rear tires, and the truck went all by its lonesome as he got past. And you look at Torrey Thompson trying to pick things up. The leaders were just behind this number 96 truck of Thompson. We'll take a look at the replay, and I don't think there's much really to explain here. Ian just gets past, and then just went a little bit too high. I think there is a little dip there at the exit of turn 2 you do have to worry about coming off of the 12 degrees of banking. It was a good job by Thompson to save it and avoid any outside or inside wall contact. But if you're Brady LaBeouf, that is scary. He was right behind that mess.
Yeah, and I think that happens at short tracks here like Martinsville or places maybe even like Bristol, Kenneth, is that you start to see those leaders in your mirror and you know there's only a few laps to go on the stage and you want to stay on the lead lap because you get past, sure, you might get the lucky dog, but who's to say the leader's not going to pass another truck before you get to the end of the stage? So I think that was maybe a little bit of a panic move there and maybe just trying to gas and get a good run off the corner and just turn the truck around.
It was passed by the 19 of Christopher Blanchard before. The leaders were getting closer, and before Thompson had went around for that spin. And it's sort of an awkward placement of the caution around lap 33. We're already 5 laps away from the conclusion of stage 1. So maybe there could be the possibility that we do have at least a 2 or 1 lap shootout to go for the stage points. But I think in any case, Ian, this is going to be really good news if you're Brady LaBeouf and Ted Wade already. Even with the cautions, they've shown a lot of pace. And they came into tonight, I believe, 5th and 6th in the playoff standings. Obviously, we're only 2 rounds clear, so still a lot of season to go. But you think about Ted Wade's performance at Daytona, you think about Brady LaBeouf's end of race performance as well from Daytona, and the consistency they've tried to build on ever since. I think there's something to note on behalf of these two, and even Tyler Dittmer as well. All 3 of them, some blazing pace here, and this first stage going to reward them for it with these points.
Yeah, LaBeouf, Wade, Dittmer, and I would say even Peacock up there in the 4th spot have just shown tremendous pace all season long. That's nothing against the 12 truck of Jose Castellanos, just hasn't been as dominated as the other 4 that we touched on a little bit earlier. But yeah, we've seen these drivers all season long up at the front of the pack really making moves and trying to battle them way for wins. Ted Wade there with the clutch push to get his teammate Chris Cinnamon across the line in our opening season race at Daytona, and then Brady LaBeouf as well. Both races is just challenged for the win all night night long. So no surprise to see these top 4 here up at the front, but be interesting to watch to see if anyone deeper in the pack can try to maybe play some strategy and get themselves up towards the front and maybe give these guys a challenge.
And I think if you're a guy like Ted Wade, you push your teammate to the win, and then the first thing you think about is, I want to win on my own. I want to be up there close for the playoffs. I want to be already locked in and have the monkey off my back and not have to worry about the points racing for the rest of the season. And even the same thing for LeBuff, having a good race at Daytona and just trying to build it up. And as soon as you can get that win, that is going to monumentally shift the way your season is approached, because usually a lot of guys just think about, all right, let me be consistent, let me just get these points in. But once you get that win, you know there's no worries about you getting out unless other drivers win, and you have basically every driver who is above that cut line with the checkered flag. That's where things get very frisky. But if you have a situation where you got a couple of guys locked in, everybody else is in on points, then you're comfortable all the way to the end. We'll see if that's the case. Still a long way to go. We've got a 2-lap shootout for the end of stage number 1. Brady LeBuff, again, another late restart, trying to catch the field off guard. Tyler Dimmer, it brings him to the inside of Ted Wade for a second. They're also side by side inside the top 5, but they're around inside the top 5 and in the back of the field as well. The 12 machine around, off of the hook. And around we go. Caution flag is out, and this should be the end of our first stage.
I think the 12 went around, but I think there is also a little bit of other trouble earlier in the pack there, Kenneth, in the turn 2. It might have been the same incident, but it looked like we had 2 incidents there. But yeah, yellow's going to come out. Looks like that's going to be into the stage 1 here.
And it looked like it was the 5 truck that went around first. Or, yeah, the 5 truck, the Kyle Larson paint scheme that went around first. That was Jacob Klinkart. We saw his performance at Daytona a couple of weeks back. He got spun out first, so that's what initially brought out the yellow. He was in the middle of basically 3 wide, and the 13 of McKinnon got into him in the middle of the corner. Also got stacked up with the 16 as well, and then around he went, but then they were going side by side for position further up the road. The 12 machine, it's hit by the 87. That's Justin Lumpkin in that machine, and the bright blue number 12 goes around for a spin and got sent to the outside wall. So that will bring out, of course, the same yellow. So 2 different incidents there. Everybody stacked up. That was Jose Castellanos in that Mountain Dew Chevy Silverado. So indeed, this should be the end of stage 1. And with your leader, I think coming down pit road, we will have Ted Wade at the very front of the field.
And I was interested to see, nobody took it last caution though, Kenneth, but I was interested to see if anybody would come down, maybe try to grab 2 tires. I don't think fuel is going to be something that these drivers have to worry about much in the race, but I was interested to see if anybody would come down before stage 2 and come and grab some tires here, but it looks like no takers so far. But yeah, the pit stop is going to allow Ted Wade to take the lead from Brady LeBuff.
And so Brady LeBuff this time will fall all the way to 8th here. So not a huge drop off if you're the 9 truck, and not going to be a lot of trucks you have to work through on that buffer for the restart. But interesting call there. Of course, you can make it to the end of stage 1 and to the end of stage 2. We have 50% fuel, and roughly at a short track like this, you go 65, 70 laps on the windows. So there's not the concern about the fuel, at least for now. There is going to be in that final 3rd stage to lap 175, but I think, Ian, it's just going to be tires. Tires are going to be huge. And if you have that extra grip already, I know we're 43 laps in and we haven't had too many green flag stretches, but even then, the stop and go, stop and go, stop and go is going to wear the tires out. And to have some fresh rubber there before, you know, the stage 2 race starts, and then you have that upper hand over everybody else, that is going to be a good sign, especially knowing that he's only in 8th. He hasn't dropped too far off. So if he can click off a couple of trucks to start on the restart, then he'll have a smooth sail to the front.
A really tough decision, right? Because we've seen how important track position has been and how hard it is once you're in that lead spot to take it away. So he's going to have to hope for a green flag run here to try to get that tire strategy to work for him. If cautions keep coming out, I think that kind of spoils their strategy. But yeah, tires are going to be an important thing here. We haven't maybe worn down the right sides as much as if we were running green flag that entire time. But you mentioned it, Kenneth, the heat cycles as we go back to green here. The heat cycles are going to be very, very important to watch all night long, especially if you have all these cautions.
And I do wonder if the 9 of Brady LeBuff, I've seen him a couple times while we were under green, weave up high to diamond the corner. And I figure maybe the right front might have worn down a little bit too much. Green flag back in the air for stage number 2, and Ted Wade already off to a swimming start. Taylor Peacock has moved to the inside of Tyler Dittmer for second, so we continue to have those battles switch hands every single time we would go back green. They're side by side for the inside of the top 5. Jose Luis Rivera moving his way by Keith Haney. Keith Bradley moves to the bottom, and we have door-to-door inside move there in a turn 1, and Brady LaBeouf trying to pick his way into it. He is currently 8th, but under fire from the 11 of Derek Kilgore.
Yeah, and tires don't mean much if you didn't get a great start there. It looks like that might have been what happened to Brady LaBeouf. And like we were talking about earlier, Kenneth, once you get stuck on that outside line, it's so easy to lose positions because the next truck in line on the bottom is just going to sweep in one of these corners while the truck's trying to pass you. So you really just get stuck up there. So really good job by Brady LaBeouf in that 9 truck to get down to the bottom lane and kind of establish himself in that position.
Yeah, it was a solid defensive move, held up the outside, and now officially clear, so he can start working on the field in front of him. Here's a look at a battle around the top 10. There is one truck sideways there at the exit of turn 4. Looked to be the 94 of Eric Zimmerman, but nonetheless, we will stay green. And there's a look at around the top 20. This is James Morris going at it with the 26 of Cody Knott. Both of them started back in 16th and 33rd, or rather 16th and 17th on the racetrack. So basically around right next to each other was Brandon Bullock in the 17, who started deep in 33rd. But they will settle out the battle, and Ted Wade already up to a 0.7 of a second gap. And most of the field around the top 10, top 15, not going side by side at all. I think it just turns back to our point, Ian, about developing that rhythm. They understand if they go side by side, there is going to be some inevitable contact, and there's going to be a caution somewhere out on the track. So they want to go as long as they can for the next stage to lap 84. And what a better way to do that than be single file on the track.
Yeah, Martinsville at times can get kind of mesmerizing as the leader here catches up to some lap traffic that was having some trouble in front of him, but it can be kind of mesmerizing so much once you have all those trucks wrapped around the bottom line and trying to just chip away at lap times here at Martinsville Raceway. Says you just do have to ride the bottom. There is that concrete that goes all the way up to the second lane. As we have the caution out again, we have a truck spun in turn 4, Kenneth.
And it's the 37, Raul Meza, and his Warrior Racing Esports machine, the driver out of Los Angeles, around out of turn 4. That's just before the Geico restart line. And it looked like just waved a little bit too high, and I think caught the curb. First time we see that tonight, Ian, a driver going down there. We didn't talk about that either. The curbing on the bottom side of this Martinsville Speedway is a killer. You see him ride the curb, and the truck just grips on the left side, and around he went. It was easy enough to send him for the half spin and locks up the brakes before anything could get worse. The whole field does a solid job of getting around the 37. But for the Warrior Racing Esports entry, that's not going to be good as he falls back 1 lap down in 29th.
That curb can be a double-edged sword too, Kenneth. On the entry into the corner, it can actually sometimes help you get your truck rotated from time to time, but especially on the exit of the corner when you're starting to put power down to those rear wheels, getting on the curb is just going to cause a spin like we saw there for the Meza's truck there. So you really don't want to catch that curbing, especially on the exit of the corner. It's going to spell disaster for you most of the time.
And so we will be under caution once again around 31 laps until the end of our second stage. That will come out, of course, at lap number 84. And in command of the field is Upfront Motorsports is Ted Wade. We talked about his instrumental push to his teammate, Chris Cinnamon, for Cinnamon to get his first win of the year. And Chris Cinnamon is not here tonight from Martinsville Speedway, so I'm not sure whether he just decided to not race here, or whether there was a thing that maybe he had to be at, or maybe he just wasn't able to make tonight's coverage. But Cinnamon, like I said, locked into the playoffs, much like Joey Doucette, so he can take this race off if he wants to, because he's already locked in. His teammate trying to follow in his footsteps. But how about Taylor Peacock? We haven't talked about him a lot. He started 13th, and ever since the start of the race, Ian, he has worked himself up nicely throughout the field and up to second. I think this could help. Obviously, we haven't seen the outside in row 1B the best place to be on a restart, but I think if you want to be anywhere, it's going to be the front of the field, and Taylor Peacock has done a fantastic job to move up to the field and to hold his own.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the broadcast too, winning our Clash at Daytona earlier in the season, non-points event. So you know that 81 truck has the speed, just trying to put it together on all these different racetracks, maybe get himself a points win. And what a boost of confidence that would be, Kenneth, getting it done not only at a super speedway, but then coming to a short track like Martinsville and getting your first points win. So that would be a really good shot in the arm there for the 81 team heading into the rest of the year.
You know, what's also interesting about the two that we're seeing first and second right now, Ted Wade his teammate Chris Cinnamon, the winner at Daytona, and then the 81 Taylor Peacock for Straight Powerhouse Racing. Joey Doucette is also a part of his team. So his teammate went to victory lane at Homestead of Miami Speedway. So we have 2 teammates of 2 of our first different winners so far. So I think that's pretty cool to see them both up, as I think we do have trouble near the rear of the field. I think they have simmered throughout, but it looked to be the 78 in trouble. We'll try to see if we can assess things right there, but there is some drama here for Martinsville. And that's definitely, I think, easily describable if you go to this Martinsville Speedway. There is going to be some drama. It looks like there was, as we're going to get the green flag out of turn 4. Ted Wade in control. Taylor Peacock trying to react into the Geico restart zone, and Ted Wade up and away. Very loose. He gets going at turn 1, but we're back under green at lap 56.
You know, Kenneth, I've been watching that all night long. Every leader who's had the control of the restart coming back has kind of stacked up the field and then launched. Almost looks like even brake checking the field at times. I'm not implying that they're doing that, but that seems to be the strategy so far. As we're under caution here again, Kenneth, is if you're the leader, kind of just try to stack that field up and then try to get to the biggest launch that you possibly can. But I'll tell you one thing, if we keep going under yellow, really the restarts don't matter. You just kind of have to get out there in front first.
And it's going to hurt for Brady LaBeouf on the fresh tires, because he's going to start to even out as well. You take a look at what happened. This is the 55 of James Haney, who got hit by the truck on the inside. That was the 26 of Cody Knott, then a bright pink and green Team Watson Racing entry, the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. Just gets in there a little bit too deep. There were 3 wide. It was the 12 of Jose Castellanos, who kind of appeared at the last second. And I'm not sure whether the 55 saw the 26 of Knott coming on the bottom. So then he gets hit and just goes straight into the outside safety barrier and hits the rear end. And like you said, Ian, to start, I mean, damage isn't going to be huge on the physical side, because it's a short track. You're not going to rely heavily on the aerodynamic performance of the race truck, but it's just a big mental thing. You don't want to have contact. You don't want to have damage. You don't want to know that you just ended up in a crash. You ended up in a yellow. You just want to be in a place where you can stay as clean as possible. But unfortunately, you can't run and hide from Martinsville at sometimes.
Well, not only that, but if you have to come down pit road to maybe even get a fresh set of tires, even if you're just grabbing tires, there's a possibility where you can fall a lap down. And even under green flag racing, we saw how easy it was. Not even 8-9 laps, our leaders were starting to catch lap traffic. So staying on the lead lap is an important part of staying out of trouble as well, because so easy to fall 1, 2, 3 laps down here at Martinsville. We already have some trucks 5, 6, 11 laps down. So once you've fallen down a few laps, it's really hard to get yourself back up on that lead lap. And even though we have all these cautions, you're gonna have to hope for like 6 or 7 in a row to get yourself back on the lead lap.
Yeah, that is definitely true, and that has fallen to the negative side of many. Already 27 trucks on the lead lap. James Haney in that 55, who was spun around in the recent caution, he's basically at the cusp of being 1 lap down here. Raul Meza in the 37, we saw him go for that single truck spin on the bottom after he hit the curb out of turn 4. He's the first truck 1 lap down, so cautions continue to wave. We will, of course, get those wave rounds, get those guys unlapped, but the last thing you want to do here at Martinsville is be a lap down and be forced your hand into having to wait for yellows and having to hope that something goes your way in a situation that is mostly out of your control, other than just trying to beat the other lap cars on track and get the position in front of them. So while we're under caution here, lap 61, we do also want to mention that we have some awards here tonight. Of course, Tyler Dittmer getting P1. He wins the Pultz Poppers Pole Award, the Pultz Poppers 175. But we also do have the Hard Charger Award, the NASRA 360 Hard Charger Award that will be given out, of course. And that tonight so far goes to the 11 machine of Derek Kilgore. Started 29th, and he is up 19 spots to the back end of the top 10. A solid charge so far in that The Punisher Ford F-150. So we'll see if he can hold on for that award right now, or maybe if he can pick up some more spots and just further cement himself as the winner of the Hard Charger Award tonight. But we'll have that little nugget for you at the end of the race when we get the end result information. But for the current result information, it's Ted Wade, Tyler Dittmer, row number 1 out of turn 4. Green flag in the air as they will enter the Geico restart zone. And Ted Wade again throwing the field off. And here comes Taylor Peacock to the inside.
And Peacock finally able to make that inside line work on Dittmer there. Now Dittmer is going to be under fire from Jose Luis Rivera in the 20 truck. But again, we see Ted Wade, the leader, able to jump the field there, get himself out to about a 3 or 4 truck length lead there on Taylor Peacock.
And it looks like the outside line is just so bad here on the restarts. It's so tough to really anticipate when the leader is going. So oftentimes, of course, we see that guy on the inside row number 2 get the jump because they see Ted Wade going first and they already know they can start hitting the gas pedals. A couple of trucks are hitting pit road. Looks like Wigington is one of them. So far is, well, the 37. Arayo Mesa, Jose Castellanos now exiting out of pit road. So he will try and safely emerge with the field on the back straightaway. But everybody trying to settle themselves out. Here's your biggest movers so far. Derek Kilgore underneath Keith Haney. That's for P10.
Yeah, Kilgore looking for another spot now. You mentioned it earlier, trying to cement that hard charger award. That's going to take P9 away from Haney there. And then Haney now is going to be under attack from looks like Neubert. And Neubert has had an up and down race so far. Good to see him back up for challenging for the top 10, Kenneth.
And nice to see them working through. And Kilgore, on behalf of the Redline Racing team, he is from Talladega, so we will visit his hometown in a couple of weeks' time when we get to the Talladega Super Speedway. But Kilgore trying to catch up to the next truck in line. That is the 48 of Robert Richards, who has held his own around the latter half of the top 10 after starting in 18th. And he's trying to get to the rear end of the 16. Joey Doucette, our winner at Homestead of Miami Speedway. And now here comes the 4, potentially challenging Neubert, washing up high and arcing it down low using the diamond approach, and it may work out of turn 2. May have the nose down there and will try to outbrake Kilgore, but will not be there, so he'll duck out and hit the reset button.
Yeah, and that diamond pattern that you've been mentioning all night long, Kenneth, really good for getting a drive out of the corner. You're seeing the drive that Neubert's getting out of the corner as well. But the only downside to running that diamond line is when you get somebody out on your outside, all of a sudden you have to change your braking point, maybe roll the center of the corner a little bit more with the truck to able to make that pass. So once you get past that truck, you can go back to your diamond approach. But that's why I kind of like to run the more traditional rolling the center of the corner approach, Kenneth, at least here at Martinsville, because you don't have to change up your strategies.
That's true, and also there is a danger there if you run too high in the middle of the corner. I saw Neubert floated up high in 3 and 4, and if you're a driver behind them, you can get a better middle of the corner and then just punch your nose to the bottom, and that could cause some complications when a guy like Neubert, if you're running that type of line, arcs down and tries to get the most amount of the throttle on the exit. That could be a big problem, but so far it hasn't been one enough to note about. Here is a 3-way fight around the top 7. Joey Doucette trying to play some defense. Jose Luis Rivera trying to hold on the outside, and a bit of contact with the 48 of Richards, and Richards gets sent around. An extra insurance hit by the 20 of Rivera. Kilgore goes around to the inside wall. More trucks are involved in it as well, and the caution flag is out at lap 72.
And I was just about to say what a great save that was by Jose Luis Rivera, but unfortunately they're able to get into the 48 truck of Robert Richards there and spin him around, and then that was unable, that collected Kilgore as well. So a good run for Kilgore. It's going to be unfortunate for him to get caught up in that.
And he saw the first bit of contact between Jose Luis Rivera and Richards, and I think the second hit sent him sideways. Richards tried to save it, and then even in the aftermath of the crash, everybody checking up, stacking with each other, and Kilgore going around hard into the inside wall. He got hit with the 4 and then got hit from behind. And then they all went around. The 12 of Jose Castellanos in it. The 24 machine, Zach Hartwig. The first time we really talked about his name all evening long. And just more of them involved. Brian Abbott was on the bottom side of that crash. He's now onto pit road. There's the look at the aftermath just behind the 20 machine of Jose Luis Rivera. And it's a big mess. Once you see one truck go around, Ian, obviously you harp on the brakes, but it's hard to anticipate where they're going to go. And when everybody checks up and stacks in that format, it is going to be the hardest job in the world to get around it without at least hitting somebody or having a close call, as we have word that the 12 machine of Castellanos has been DQ'd. So unfortunately for him, he's going to be out of the race for Martinsville, and you'll have to work back next week at Nashville Super Speedway.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too, no fault of your own. I was going to bring that up. Really unfortunate for Castellanos there in the 12 truck. He was just had nowhere to go trying to avoid that accident. Got tapped by another truck that was also trying to avoid it, and then just, DQ'd and immediately off the track. So really unfortunate for him, but that's why you got to fight so hard here at Martinsville to try to stay out of those things, because a few of those incidents out of your control snowball like that, and your race is over.
So many trucks a lot of them out of this race. Torrey Thompson added to the DNF list. Same deal for Adam Cantwell, who disconnected a little bit earlier on in tonight's coverage. And they are part of the group that is now 24th on back, 1 lap down or more. Adam Newbert, who was involved in that crash, I think took a step down to pit road. So the 4 machine will now not anymore be the last truck on the lead lap. That honor will go to the 5 of Jacob Klinkart, but Newbert was in that position, although he's going to be at the tail end of the field, and we are closing in our final 9 laps of stage 2 here in this Pultz Poppers 175. So Ian, I know there were a lot of cautions thrown out, so we haven't really seen a significant rhythm under green develop, but what have you noticed so far from some of our heavy hitters in the field?
Well, I've kind of been guilty of being a Ted Wade fan all season. Kind of just watching him. I didn't know him at all before coming in and watching these NASRA Pulling M races here, or Pulling M, Triple M Pulling Truck Series races. There we go. I'll get it one of these days. Kind of a tongue twister, but he's been up front in all of our races so far, and we saw him earlier when Peacock was in the lead. He was the faster truck, and he was trying to do anything he could to get around Peacock, and now that he's in the lead, even with Peacock there breathing down his neck, I just think it's going to be tough for him to lose the lead right now, especially if we're seeing all the cautions that we have been seeing, Kenneth. And Brady LaBeouf here, his tire strategy, he's got himself up to 6 now with those fresher tires, but I think that's going to start to equalize here pretty quickly.
Hey, I think the bias for Ted Wade, I smell it a little bit. I smell it a little bit, guy. Never mind. But Ted Wade here, Taylor Peacock on his outside, row number 1, into our final 100 laps here in the Pultz Poppers 175. Ted Wade has been infamous for some of those Geico restart zone throw-offs, and there we go. He will go again for turn 1. Green flag back in the air. There will be Taylor Peacock holding on for second. This time actually played some good defense on Tyler Dittmer. So really the first time we see outside row 1 prove to be sufficient, but they're already wrecking in the rear of the field. 48 of Robert Richards around in that one. Raul Mesa and a couple of more, and there are 2.
I mean, I don't blame any of these drivers, Kenneth. It's so hard to navigate this Martinsville Raceway here, but just a really tough night there for Robert Richards. Just can't seem to avoid the incidents now here recently. And again, we're under caution, and these drivers are going to have to try to figure it out again.
You know, the DQ limit tonight, or rather not the DQ limit, but the penalty limit for incident count is 14. And then every 20x, that's when you end up with more penalties to follow. And there's the contact. It was between Keith Haney, who just sent him to the inside, and Robert Richards, who was trying to arc it down to 1. Similar incident to what we saw a little bit earlier on tonight with some of the drivers in the rear. I guess just not anticipating that they're going to arc it down that low. And it looks like they'll back out. Like you see Haney here. Looks like he's going to back out in turn 1, but just keeps his nose there. And Richards obviously anticipating that Haney is just going to follow through behind and not make contact, but obviously not clear into the corner, so Richards goes for a spin. And for Richards, it was a night going so well for stage 1. It has since gone severely south in stage 2.
Yeah, he was up towards the front there, really, and maybe not one of the cars challenging for the lead, but definitely running up there, a solid P10, maybe even a P5 finish, but just been an incident so far. And really, a lot of it is out of your control here at Martinsville. We touched on it a little bit earlier, how when things start stacking up in front of you, there's nowhere to go. And even if you are the truck that checks up, there's nothing that's going to prevent the truck from behind you not seeing the incident and not checking up and then getting into the back of you. And we've seen both of those happen to many drivers tonight, kind of. So really, we talked about surviving maybe at Daytona, but this is a different type of survival here at Martinsville.
Yeah, it's a physical type of survival. At Daytona, it's so high paced that you just want to be in the clear for any big ones and huge crashes. Martinsville, we don't see any huge crashes per se, obviously with the speeds being severely slowed down, but you just have the inevitability of somebody's going to hit you, or you're going to hit somebody, or somebody's going to go around, and you're going to have no space to get around them. And then it's just that type of survival of just being up at the front and hoping you can clear away from all of the stack-up traffic trouble, as opposed to the high-speed, intense crashing trouble that we see at the super speedways, and that we'll see at the Talladega Super Speedway later on this season. So the 48, Robert Richards, he is listed as 23rd, and much like the other guys involved in most of our incidents tonight, he is the last truck on the lead lap, and the first truck 1 lap down. The honors will be given to the 55 of James Haney. Remember, we saw him involved in a single truck spin as he was basically 3 wide and then got hit in the entrance of turn 3, so the 48 may go down the same path in the final 93 laps. But we will close here in on stage number 2. So I think our stage will end maybe under caution, or we'll maybe just have a single file jump all the way, a one-lap shootout to the end of stage number 2. But now it's the setup for stage number 3, our longest one of the night, to send us home, and it's going to be an endurance one for sure.
Yeah, and there seems to be some stacking up here, so I don't know if we're going back green quite yet. It looks like we are kind of under green again, and Ted Wade's going to get the jump, but back on the field there, the 48 truck of Robert Richards was still trying to get under speed and kind of got caught halfway through the pack, so that's going to be interesting to see him navigate his way through there.
You see everybody on the rear side of the pack trying to settle themselves through, a lot of them 2 wide, 3 wide in some extreme cases, but Ted Wade trying to hold on. This is the final lap in stage number 2 from Martinsville. He comes across the line, so he will officially get the points for the second stage. We'll see if race control throws the yellow, or whether we've gotten enough yellows to where we will stay green. And there it is, yellow flag out for our stage. Taylor Peacock in second. Keith Bradley with severe front end damage somehow is able to get third. Tyler Dittmer fourth. Brady LeBoeuf to your top 5 as the caution flag will wave. And stage number 2 ends from the Paperclip.
And I wonder, Kenneth, will we see the war of attrition continue here, or will we see now in the third longest stage here where these guys don't have to maybe jump as much for stage points and can kind of settle themselves into a rhythm and see what their truck can do in the long run here? As we see most of the trucks coming down pit road here, we'll see if they get tires and top it full of Sunoco race fuel. But it's going to be interesting to see in the third stage, like I said, that if these guys start to settle in and maybe try to get into a rhythm where they don't have to rush for the stage points as much, or if we're going to continue to see more and more short green flag spurts.
So we'll see. Here come the leaders onto pit road. There's Tyler Dittmer into his first pit stall. Brady LeBoeuf trying to use some of the extra, at least the extra space in front of the 2 of Ted Wade, your former race leader, to his advantage. We'll see if the calls are differing here, but should be 4 tires and some fuel to get to the end of this race. Ted Wade out first without any contention. Tyler Dittmer in a race for second, actually a 3 wide, a race for second, as the 29 of Keith Bradley, I think, may have gone around first, and the answer is yes. So he beats Brady LeBoeuf and Tyler Dittmer out of pit road. A gorgeous pit stop. The 29 of Bradley, a 14.2 second stop. LeBoeuf with a 14, or actually it doesn't say his time specifically on our telemetry, but he had a 47.9 second overall pit lane trip. And so we'll see if that affects anything. It doesn't say that he took any tires or fuel or how long his stop officially lasted, but so interesting there on behalf of the number 9. However, Ted Wade, no competition whatsoever. He's out of pit lane first, and I think, Ian, it's just another addition to what's been a Ted Wade dominant field ever since he got around the likes of Tyler Dittmer and got around Brady LeBoeuf. He's been the strongest one of the field. I think the 9 has really been the only other guy to contend consistently with the 2, but if Ted Wade could just hold on through the cautions and keep his truck clean, this could be an easy W if he just stays out front and keep the pace like he's been doing.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see now what Brady LeBoeuf has for Ted Wade with the 4 fresh tires. You got to think now both those guys have 4 fresh tires, so it'll be really a battle between those 2, I think, for supremacy, especially early here in the stage. But also, it's going to be a chance for one of these drivers to maybe save their equipment, try to stretch those tires as long as they can, and maybe get a jump on these guys later in the stage if it goes green for a long time. But as we've seen here so far tonight, Kenneth, that's not really been the case. But I think here going into the third stage, I think we'll see things settle down a little bit, actually.
Well, with the cautions as well, Ian, we have seen some different strategies, some guys coming down pit road, and I think this is going to be a rather unique barrier for your leaders. Ted Wade here, Christopher Blanchard, who I believe did not come down pit road, or actually did. No, he did not. He's 16 laps into his stint. But Jacob Klinkart, Matt Rutter, they are 17 and 15 laps in their stint, respectively, the 33 and the 5. So they're on old tires here. Rest of the field basically on new rubber. And we'll get a restart here. Lap number 91 of 175 to our final stage in the Pultz Poppers. 175 into the Geico restart zone. Matt Rutter and Klinkart with a solid jump. No spin to the rear wheel tires, but we'll see if Ted Wade and company have any answer. And already Wade to the inside of Klinkart for second and could attack into turn 3 on your race leader.
You can already see right now the advantage that those fresh tires are giving the Ted Wade. He's able to hold the bottom, and everybody behind them that have fresh tires are able to just make mincemeat of these two up at the front so far. And I think if you're those two cars at the front of the field that stayed out and weren't taking any tires, you were hoping for an early caution, but that's not necessarily the case. Not even 3 laps, and Ted Wade's already sliced his way to the front.
Ted Wade makes his way underneath Matt Rudder. There's a look at Klinkart trying to hold on for dear life. And Ian, you touched on the freight train. If you're up there, Klinkart fortunately avoids more of the freight train attacking him as he settles into P6. And now it's going to attack the 33 of Rudder here. Got sent to the outside, and now here comes Keith Bradley to the bottom for second. Jose Luis Rivera entering the corner for third. Brady LaBeouf trying to also fend in. This will be for fourth. And Matt Rudder's stuck on the freight train up there. Klinkart will try to follow suit on behalf of the 9. The old tire trucks not really doing well here as LaBeouf will move to the inside, and your top 4 clear up to the front.
Yeah, now once you see Rudder get down to the bottom too, it's just so hard for him to hold that truck around the bottom of the racetrack. He's always drifting up maybe a half truck off of that curving there, and that's just making those lap times slower and slower and letting the rest of these guys with fresh tires that are able to roll the truck through the middle of the corner just all that more room to catch him, Kenneth.
And I think it was a differing opinion there between the 5 and the 33, who played a little more defense and added more resistance, as opposed to the 19, Christopher Blanchard. He's on also some old Goodyear Eagles, but he's just letting everybody through. I think he doesn't want any drama. He doesn't want any miscommunications. He just wants to settle into his rhythm where at least he's not necessarily freight trained by the field, as the 33 might have had a problem here on the inside.
Tapped, Kenneth.
Yeah, he did. Taylor Peacock got into him.
Yeah, I didn't see who it was, but I saw it just out of the corner of my eye. He definitely got some help, I think, going through 3 and 4 there, and got very, very loose and was able to hold on to it.
Yeah, it was apex contact in the middle of the corner, 1 and 2. And the 81, of course, he's on fresh tires, much like your leaders are, so he just got into the rear end and then got the 33 sideways. Rudder, fortunately, was able to save it, although he falls and plummets to P11 on the racetrack. He'll be under fire from Joey Doucette behind, but Doucette is not for track position. The next one in line will be the Team Watson racing car of Cody Knott in the 26. And I think here, Ian, we may be stepping into our first somewhat long green flag run of the race. We've got some laps in, under now 77 laps to go as you watch a nice fight for 13th on back. This is Abbott, Newbert, and Tyler Dittmer, the 82, the 4, and the 34 to turn 1.
Yeah, and they're going to be catching up to our trucks that stayed out here in just a little bit as well, so that's going to throw another dynamic into this battle. But another thing I was thinking about, Kenneth, if you're one of those trucks that did stay out at the last caution there when all the leaders went to pit road, even if you're sitting right now in maybe P12, if you're a Rudder there, or even farther back if you're one of those other trucks, it's not necessarily the worst idea ever, especially if you were far in the pack. You still play the track position game a little bit. I think holding on to the lead was an interesting strategy now as we see the 51 around. Looks like in turn 2, Kenneth. I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah, Tony Smith, some contact here with Dane Hagen in his machine, so that sends the 51 for a spin. It was a single truck accident there, so fortunately no one gets into that 51, who still stopped up at the high side of the racetrack. And we'll take a look at exactly how this was caused. But I mean, most of the incidents here at Martinsville are caused by just small hits, small taps, and it was Hagen who just dove a little bit too deep in the corner, washed up the track into the 51 going into turn 2. And then around Smith went, and maybe Smith will fall into the category of trucks and end up 1 lap down. Here's a look officially at the replay. Smith trying to arc it into the corner. Hagen with a dive bomb and just slides a little bit too high and hits the 51, sending him sideways.
Yeah, Kenneth, and these trucks are so loaded up in the corner underneath braking load that it's so easy to get them loose as well. It's just a little bit of a tap breaks that traction, and the truck goes around as easy as that. So even if you're the driver behind him and you're really, really careful trying not to get into him, it doesn't take much. The slightest tap will send these trucks around.
It's definitely easy to get sent sideways, and by the time you're past a certain angle, I think you can categorize the truck as gone in terms of trying to whip it back straight. We've seen a couple of cases where getting it back straight has been viable, but for the most part, when you're getting sent and you get hit like that at that certain angle, at that certain speed in the middle of the corner, it's just so hard to get it back straight. And then we do see some instances where guys overcorrect and hit the outside wall. You also don't want to have that happen either, so you just let it spin. You just let it do its own thing and you become the passenger. And I was right. Tony Smith now will lap down on the racetrack. He is, though, not the lucky dog. That honor, I think, goes to the 37 of Raul Meza, who should get the wave around this time through. We'll see if race control gives it out. And we do have a couple of trucks on pit road. But what I do want to mention here, Ian, we're stepping into the final, now 72 laps of this Pultz Poppers 100 or 150. And we have seen the window stretch to about 65, 70 laps. And these guys have already been as far as 17 laps in the stint. Clutching and coasting can be a probability now under the yellows, but I figure we may have to see these guys come down pit road once more before this is all said and done, which is going to add another factor to the mix as well.
Yeah, I think fortunately for these drivers, you'll see it under yellow the way the night's been going. But yep, one more fuel stop definitely for all these trucks. But that would be something to see, Kenneth. We had a string of green flag stops here at Martinsville. I wouldn't mind that, and I don't think the fans at home would mind that too much either.
Oh, definitely not. And also think about it as well. 2 tire calls could be in the mix as well. We've seen it happen where guys who have nothing to lose, especially this early in the season, you're just gunning for wins, and obviously you want a good finish, but you know, you can take away Martinsville from the rest of the season and do well for the rest of the campaign. Just risk it and go for the win. If the race hasn't been going your way, if you're kind of lodged in the midfield and you've really been hopeless the entire race, go for the strategy call. Maybe 2 tires could help you get to the end. And, you know, it's that nice balance between worn left sides, but you've got some clean right sides, and they're fresh as well. So, you know, you can get the runs out of the corners and you won't necessarily be at too much of a deficit to the guys on 4. We'll see, though. There's still a long amount of racing left to go into the Geico restart zone. Ted Wade up and away, and he will lead the field back to turn 1. It's Keith Bradley against Jose Luis Rivera, and Rivera tries to dive to the inside, and he'll remain side by side for second.
Yeah, Bradley got a really good jump off that restart there. I would say an even better jump than Rivera, and is able actually to challenge Rivera right now on the top line, Kenneth. He's really making that truck work up there, but we'll see how long he can make it last. He's underneath the 3 truck, and he's actually able to clear him now. It's very impressive there by the 29. Was able to make that top line work off the restart.
And Bradley doing a solid job of playing defense, but the caution comes out, and it is Justin Lumpkin in the 87. Actually a parking lot on the back straightaway. Brandon Bullock involved in it as well. Yes, the 87 is included, in another hit there to Bullock's machine. As we'll see what happened. It started with Lumpkin, I think.
Can't park there, Kenneth, unfortunately, even if you have a permit. So
yeah, no, you probably have to pay Martinsville as well to park in that piece of track. The 87, I think, got hit by Lucas Whitehead. It appears to be the case. So Whitehead, we saw him into the pit barrels out of turn 2. And yep, there's the slight hit. Ian, again, the probability of saving that truck is almost impossible. And then they stack up there. The 38 of Hagen, the 19 of Blanchard, and then 17 is just stuck, tries to get back underway, and Huck Wigington gives the love tap.
Yeah, and there's another dynamic to that as well, Kenneth. Under braking, when you're getting into the corner, not as hard to hold on to the truck if you're tapped, but especially coming out of the corner when you're starting to accelerate off the corner. These trucks are running such high RPMs here at Martinsville in the gear selection that your tires lift off the ground even the slightest inch, and once they touch the ground again, they're just spinning so much that the truck immediately snaps around. So even the most talented drivers, really hard for them here the way the truck is set up at Martinsville to try to hang on to those trucks once they get knocked.
And also, this is a custom fixed set here from the Paperclip also to follow. So it's not just the iRacing fixed set that they just give you here on the sim. It is just a custom set made by somebody to give to this league. And so that also plays into the factor as well, how loose the setup is naturally. And we did talk about that bump, that little dimple in turn 2, little dip in the ground where you just try to go full throttle and then the truck would just kind of bobble and then it'll spin sideways and you'll have to be forced to save it. We are still under the lights of the pace truck, so I think we'll go an extra lap here, Ian, before we go green flag racing. But I think if we're going to talk about the longevity of a Martinsville race with cars severely damaged, 29 and the 20. I think Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and there are more exhibits here in the field as well. You can be damaged, and you can still be fast. We've seen it out of the both. So, I mean, look at that truck. I think at any other track, Ian, that would be loss of speed, loss of straightaway speed, loss of corner speed, right front destroyed. But here in Martinsville, you're invincible.
Well, how many times have we seen in real life in Martinsville, Bristol, where you have cars just absolutely thrashed? I think about AJ Allmendinger getting wrecked across the line. A little bit of a different scenario, but getting wrecked across the line by Austin Cindric a few years back in the Xfinity race, and the car is just in victory lane destroyed. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be pretty here at Martinsville. You just got to get it done first.
You know what? I also think of the fact that I've seen a couple of league races where at these short tracks where somebody gets a front clip torn off, somebody gets a rear clip torn off, and they actually are faster than when they were with just the normal truck or with the normal car when it was just clean and had no problems with it whatsoever. I've seen that happen before, and we like to call it, I guess, extra cooling, extra
speed holes,
horsepower. Yes, extra horsepower. You get air in the engine and it gets faster. So I have seen that before. And I think we may be in for that tonight. We haven't seen any front clips torn off, so I think that's good news. But if somebody becomes faster with just the radiator popping out in the front of the truck, don't be surprised. I think we could be in store for that, and there's still a long way to go here at Martinsville. So we've got a lot of time to have a story like that arise out of nowhere. Our story, though, follows Ted Wade, who has the pace truck come down on pit road in front of him and will exit turn 4 into the Geico restart zone. As of lap 113, he will throw the field off and restart, and they wiggle. Peacock goes sideways. He's able to save it, but Ted Wade commanded the field back to turn 1, and we're wrecking again on the front straightaway. Jonathan Munda going backwards. He went around, coming to the start-finish line.
Yeah, I unfortunately for Munda there, but I do appreciate the style points, just continuing the reverse down the front stretch there. That was kind of comical, at least.
That's Mater class right there. I like that.
Yeah. He'll get it turned around here, though, so not too much damage to that 15 truck, so good for him, at least for that.
So we'll check the replay. It was Keith Haney that stopped up. I think they just stacked up, anticipating that maybe Peacock was going to go around, and then as Zimmerman in the 94 was slowing down, he got hit on the rear side of his truck by the 87 of Justin Lumpkin, and then that got sent to the 15 of Munda, and then Munda just went backwards. Just
controller died.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, controller gone. Had the notification on the screen, but he didn't stop before the wall, so I think he found control in a little bit of time. That's good.
I mean, and really, what are you going to do there as a driver, Kenneth? I mean, you don't know. You're flipped around backwards. You don't want to turn back up the racing line. I think that's almost the safest play you could make in that situation.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys that they try to not hold the brakes and they go around the track, and then somebody gets into them because, you know, they don't expect it happening. So I think some good avoidance there. Added 15 of Jonathan Munda, and like you said, Ian, some style points. I think the judges that usually judge the hot dogs here at Martinsville got to come over to the racetrack and see what's happening with the 15. I was going to bring up a point. I think that, I mean, in some part of this race, maybe we'll see some people get inspired by that 15 and go backwards on the pace lap. Could we see that? I'm not sure.
At this point, who knows, right? I mean, we're kind of getting a little bit delirious up here in the booth as a driver as well, just keeping yourself mentally sharp when you have this many cautions coming out. Kind of hard to sometimes fight off being a little bit goofy out there on the racetrack, but if you're really trying to get it done, you got to focus throughout all these cautions and all these adversity that we've seen so far tonight. Kenneth, I don't think we'll see anybody driving backwards under the pace laps, but we've seen crazier things.
That's true. That is true. I've seen trucks flip here at Martinsville, which is even weirder than some of the crazy things we've seen tonight. I was about to mention we have 17 trucks on the lead lap, but add that number, it'll be 18 here with Dane Hagen, and maybe even 19 with Christopher Blanchard getting the wave around. So 19 trucks officially on the lead lap here in the Pultz Poppers 150. We are closing in on the final 60 laps of the race, and it has been all Ted Wade in control. We haven't seen anybody answer to his threat to the rest of the field so far, Ian, but the problem again with stop and go racing is that these guys second on back, they have a hard time challenging against Wade, because when you're having restart after restart after restart, guess who the advantage goes to when you're going green? Your race leader, Ted Wade. He decides when he wants to go. That Geico restart zone does help for the field to sort of anticipate the range where he's going to go, but you don't know the exact place where he's going to stomp on the pedal and officially go up to the gears heading for turn 1. So everybody, they don't have a response for Ted Wade under green like we've seen, but I think the yellow is definitely not helping the restarts, playing into just Ted Wade being able to control the restarts, hold on, and then as soon as the caution comes out, does it all over again.
Well, right now it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, Kenneth? Especially if you're Ted Wade, because with these yellow flags coming out and all these caution laps running, it's just taking away our lap counter, which works in your favor. You want to get to the checkered flag as fast as you possibly can, but at the same time, all these cautions that you keep having, all those drivers behind you have to think that the next yellow is coming out in 2 to 3 laps. So it's not like you can sit there and let Ted Wade run away with the restart. You got to get to his back bumper, and you got to maybe even think about moving him if you're serious about winning this race. So if you're Ted Wade, yes, you do want to see these yellows coming out, but you probably want to see a green flag run, maybe with 10 laps to go or something like that, just so you can build up that advantage, because your truck has been so good all night long, because these yellows just keep those guys right behind you.
That is true, and also if you continuously have yellows, you have more time to think about, do I go down pit road? Do I make a call now for the end of the race? Or do I not? Green flag will be waving this time by lap 120 in the final 55 laps here tonight from the virtual Martinsville Speedway. It'll be Ted Wade up and away to the gun. Jose Luis Rivera, a dive into turn 1 underneath Keith Bradley.
Yeah, and Rivera there kind of just drove Bradley up the track a little bit, just kind of outbraked him, and then just drove the racetrack maybe a lane off, and really just took away all that momentum that Bradley had, and takes away that second spot from him. And Bradley now just going to try to reel him back in.
And they were almost 3 wide for position behind. Watch the 3-way fight for 4th on back. Brady LaBeouf just got the better of Jacob Klinkhardt and Taylor Peacock, and they were entering the corner 3 wide at one point. They both backed out, and so Brady LaBeouf, remember, he was on fresher tires earlier on in this race, and the cautions definitely hasn't helped his trek back to the trek back to the front of the field, but he's trying to make some progress here, and will step into the top 3 if he can. We're side by side for position behind them. That is the 87 machine of Lumpkin under fire. There's also a side-by-side battle between the 4 and the 33. Adam Newbert and Matt Rudder there in the 33. We saw the 33 stay out on older tires on one of our restarts. So he's trying to enter into the top 10 once again, holding the bottom. And then they are also side-by-side, Raul Mesa and Keith Haney. That's for 14.
Yeah, really good run by Mesa, too. Had some early problems, fell a lap down, but was able to run some consistent laps and get his lap back, and now riding right there in the top 15. So good to see for him, Kenneth.
So now they single file out officially here. Rudder will hold back on the fight there against the 4. I think just recognizes he doesn't want to lose too much time, and Newbert just a little bit faster throughout the laps, so he'll give the 4 the spot for the moment, and they should be anticipating a yellow somewhat soon. Keith Bradley trying to hunt down on Jose Luis Rivera, but can't do it. And I think again they'll go side by side. Now the 33 builds up the move. I like that one. A smart one here, Ian. Just set up, let the 4 go, and then built the move up, and then pushes through Newbert's truck as Raul Mesa gets turned. That's Lucas Whitehead who disappears. I think he got DQ'd as well for incident limit. And after I was just about to mention, Rudder with a textbook move on the 4. The 37 tried a dive bomb into the corner. Checked up significantly. Lucas Whitehead got into the rear end, and around Mesa went.
And that was unfortunate, too. When he was trying to get going, he kind of caught the 19 there. I don't think he was trying to do that. And then maybe a little bit of frustration from Mesa there, trying to get off him as fast as he possibly could. But I just mentioned how good of a night he was having getting back up into the top 15, but that definitely sets him back a little bit there.
So Whitehead added to the long list of drivers tonight in the Pultz Poppers 150 who have been over the limit and have disconnected from the race as a result. As the 37 tried going back on the racetrack and then hit the 19 of Christopher Blanchard. Blanchard, and nothing he could do. He was just trying to get around the 37 who was stopped and was hoping that he would stay there. There's the 55 machine. And then here comes Blanchard. You'll watch him on the right side of your screen enter as the 37 gets back underway. And not the best place to merge down.
No, yeah, you really got to pay a little bit more attention there, even if, you know, you're a truck spinning, and we can understand that kind of that's frustrating to get spun on iRacing, especially when you've had the night that Mesa has had there. But yeah, kind of unfortunate there that rejoining the field there kind of took another truck with it.
Yeah, Raul Mesa here, I think, was just given fault for the incident, so he will get an end of line penalty. As a result, one truck will get the wave around. That is Brandon Bullock in the 17. I think he was the first truck 1 lap down. Actually, no, he is not. He is 1 lap down in 19th place, but he is behind the likes of Jonathan Munda, Raul Mesa, who will get the end of line penalty this time through. Christopher Blanchard, who does have the lucky dog spot as of right now, but the 19 has hit pit road, so that will send it off to the 15's favor. And so I think the 17 will be behind him. He's picking up some spots now as he brings his truck around. But yeah, I mean, these cautions coming out, just slight contact. The frustration is building, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the fights, a lot of the tensions here in Martinsville, because you're so closely packed, and then the mistakes happen, and then you have the crashes, and then you have the incidents that seem a little bit questionable at best. and then you just have guys getting frustrated because there's so many cautions coming out, and you see it a lot. The damaged race trucks and the damaged mental of these drivers as it continues stop and go as we enter the final 45.
Driver, you want to feel like you're doing something out there on the racetrack, right? So just sitting here under caution laps, even if you're Ted Wade, our leader, you don't feel like you've really accomplished much throughout the course of the race, maybe, Kenneth. So, like you said, frustration probably creeping into the mind of a lot of these guys, especially if you're someone who's been caught up in incidents that were no fault of your own and fell to the back of the pack, and now you just find yourself in a chain reaction. And we see that happen at a lot of places. Kind of the first incident gets you in the back of the pack, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. So really you want to find yourself up front at the front of this field, but even then you start to get enough green flag runs and you catch up to the back of that field. So as you mentioned all night long, there's just no place to hide here, and you just got to hope that you're not caught up in one of the incidents.
So we get the 1 to green signal, and we'll run down the order for you. Ted Wade leading the race on the restart. Jose Luis Rivera will be second outside row 1. Keith Bradley, Brady LaBeouf, the 2 to round out row number 2. It'll be Jacob Klinkart inside top 5. Taylor Peacock in 6th. Tyler Dimmer falls to 7th. It'll be 8th for Cody Knott. 9th for Michael McKinnon. And the 48 of Robert Richards inside the top 10. Jose Luis Rivera lagging a bit on the restart. A sluggish start there for the 20. So he's going to get beat off the line. 29, and around goes Brady LaBeouf and Taylor Peacock. Peacock is able to save it. LaBeouf does not. And the caution comes out to one of our fastest trucks all race long. As the 9 truck got hit going into turn 1. They were about 3 wide going in. And LaBeouf gets turned. And he's going to fall to the dead end of the field.
That wasn't the greatest move by Peacock there, Kenneth. I hate to kind of call anybody out there, but that was not a well-advised move there for 3 wide here. As you see, they're coming back to the restart. Ted Wade again gets a great jump, but as you mentioned, the 20 of Luis Rivera there just kind of gets stacked up, and then the 81 tries to make it 3 wide and doesn't really give Brady just anywhere to go, honestly.
Yeah, forced the truck nose in there, and also just had so much space to the 5 of Klinkart. He could have easily sent it through the middle without any problems. He was just way too high on the racetrack. The move made a little bit too late. Watch here, Peacock floats high and then doesn't even arc for the corner. Just goes straight into the rear end of the 9 machine and then stacks up even more drivers. The 4 machine, Adam Newbert, and a couple of others as well. So a multi-truck incident. And it'll take Brady LaBeouf out of the race here, as there he is coming down pit road. This will help strategy-wise, but again, Ian, we talked about the importance of track position, and this is the last thing you want to be, last situation you want to be in, rather. On a pit road, probably maybe a lap down, depending on the situation, and your truck just absolutely totaled for the most part.
Yeah, I'm also curious what this does for the trucks that haven't been incidents and have been out for these green flag laps, what it does for fuel mileage and pit stops there. We mentioned about 70 to 75 laps possibly on a tank of fuel, but when you have this many cautions, it really starts to change things up, though. Although on the backstretch here, we're seeing some trucks dip down low. I mean, that's Mesa, so that makes sense. I don't think anybody else is going the pit road right now, but I'm not sure what that does for a fuel mileage, though, honestly. Kenneth, I don't know if that throws a wrench in it or if these guys still have to make one more stop.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. I'm riding on board with Ted Wade, and he is clutching under the caution, which I figure might have been the case for the other yellows before that. That obviously is going to help extend his fuel mileage all the way closer to the end of this race. We are now under the 40 lap to go marker here from the Paperclip, so not a lot of laps left, as these laps do get ticked down rather quickly, around, I'd say, 19 to 20 second laps at its fastest here for Martinsville with these trucks. So Wade saving fuel. He has not gone down pit road. We'll listen in and see if Bradley is saving. He indeed is. Jose Luis Rivera is not, so he's around the 4,000, 5,000 RPM range. I think Jacob Klinkart might also be saving as well. A lot of these guys somewhat at the top end, or the low end of 4th gear, so the revs are going to be very low. So I think that also with saving under yellow definitely does help, but I think even then, I'm not sure whether you can make it all the way to the finish of this race. And you're going to have to pit at least once. It's just who's going to come down first, and is the risk worth it if nobody comes with you?
And if Ted Wade is able to work his strategy right and come away with a win today, I was just checking the points, so we had a second here, Kenneth, and that's going to give him the win and lock him in the playoffs. And then with Chris Cinnamon not racing today and Joey Doucette farther down in the order, it's going to be a huge points day for Ted Wade as well if he's able to come away with the win in this race tonight. So really good run for him so far, but that final money stop is really going to be the key to his race.
That's going to be true. Ted Wade came into tonight P6 in the playoff standings. He was 40 points above the cut line, and of course only the third race of the season, so no huge implications, but for Wade, if he could win, obviously that will be huge. He'll join his teammate Chris Cinnamon in that Upfront Motorsports camp as the two to lock themselves into the 2022 playoffs, and that means they can approach the rest of the season in whatever fashion they want. They can be consistent, they can have some days where they may falter, they may not have the greatest day, but they know they're locked in nonetheless. And even then, think about the guys like Keith Bradley, Jose Luis Rivera, guys that are not even listed in the playoff standings graphic. They're below that cut line, way below. If they have a good finish, they could surge up the standings and have a good momentum booster going into the next race. We'll just have to see. Green flag back out in the air, crossing the line for lap 139 of 175. Ted Wade up and away. Keith Bradley, Jose Luis Rivera, second and third. But Luis Rivera is going to come down pit road. And there's a crash already in turn 3.
Looks like I can't really. I think that's a 26 truck, kind of. I'm trying to get a look at the angle here.
Already not.
The Team Watson racing machine.
And it was a send by the 48. Robert Richards gets into him, and that was basically right behind the 20 of Jose Luis Rivera coming down pit road. So that could not have been a worse timed caution if you're that 20 machine. As we'll take a look at the incident. There's a look at Jose Luis Rivera diving down a pit road without any problems, but there, caution is waved as soon as the 26 bats it into the outside wall on behalf of contact with the 48 of Richards. Just dove it too hard in the corner and did not expected contact onto the rear side of the truck, and the Toyota Tundra goes for a slam. That left side absolutely destroyed, pancaked.
Yeah, and I think the only saving grace there for the 20 truck of Jose Luis Rivera is I do not believe pit row was closed before he crossed the line. So I don't think he got another penalty or anything there. I think he was just going to basically drop to the tail end of the pack.
It would be tough. I mean, the caution was timed so poorly there for Rivera. And I'm not entirely sure why Rivera had made the stop in the first place, because he was all by himself and it was under green. And up until this point, there were no contacts from race control about a penalty issued to the 20, about any huge calls directed at Rivera. Rivera had been driving just fine. So I think that may have just been a willing call to go down pit road. And I think, fortunately, Rivera will stay on the lead lap. Although he did not go into his stall. He spent 32 seconds on pit road, but he saw the caution came out and he said, no way, I'm not going for tires and fuel. I'll have to wait and I'll maybe do it another time. It's just he's going to fall out of the top 5, which, you know, he's been hanging around for the last at least half of this race he in. So track position going to fall just a little bit and he won't be in contention for the top 3.
Yeah, a net loss for sure. And I think he was possibly trying to short pit, maybe thinking that if he went down, well, even then, I feel like he would fall a lap down, Kenneth. So I'm not entirely sure if he had some kind of mechanical issue going on or what was there, because he immediately rejoined when the yellow came out. So I'm not really sure what the strategy there was. I was almost thinking maybe short pit, and then you don't have to pit when the rest of the guys come down under caution, but you're still probably falling a lap down then. So I don't think that's really a play you can make here in Martinsville.
Yeah, an awkward call there by the 20. We'll try to figure out what the reasoning was behind his call, but nonetheless, we look to be doubling up the field. Indeed, we will. Lights are out on the iRacing official pace truck. We will go green with 31 laps to go in this Pultz Popper 150. And so Ted Wade will lead the field. Keith Bradley into second. Jacob Klinkart has weaved his way into third. I think a nice recovery for the Kyle Larson-inspired number 5 truck. And then Jose Luis Rivera will fall back to the top 5. Tyler Dittmer will be in P4 on the outside of Klinkart's number 5 machine. So out of turn 4, Ted Wade will have control of the restart, and no, he won't. At least for now, caution flag will be extended by race control. They'll get the back of the field back settled, and again, opportunity to save for the field, but is just creating more confusion as Robert Richards has just been handed the end of line penalty for causing the incident.
Yeah, and they're really messing with your flow there tonight, Kenneth, just kind of stopping and starting you and everything like that. But again, really important that these race directors get the field set where it needs to be. And of course, you don't want any car that's dropping to the end of the line right now, Kenneth, when the rest of the trucks are trying to get going.
Yeah, it's been confusing for sure. I mean, the caution's extending. I see the field coming out of turn 4. I think automatically it's a green flag. Now, though, it's a green flag, so caught me off guard there. Ted Wade back into turn 1. Keith Bradley behind him to follow. And it looks like top 6 or so have spread themselves away from the rest of the field. That's Keith Haney, the last truck in that first group. And it's Michael McKinnon following through in 7 to start that second pack, followed by Justin Lumpkin. And then our first side-by-side battle in between the latter half of the top 10. This is Justin Lumpkin right in front of the group. That is actually Brady LeBuff trying to unlap himself. Jonathan Munda to the inside. So they're side-by-side, not for track position, as the green cone goes for a full ride out of turn 2. There goes Lumpkin on a pit road. So it looks like Munda will take the position away nonetheless. And the 4 of Newbert trying to unlap himself as well.
Good for Munda there to be back in the top 10 after his spin. So he's doing a good job now with the rest of his race that he's got going on here. Taking a look at Jose Luis Rivera on that 20 truck, made that move to pit road earlier and didn't bite him too much, but you got to think he's a little bit frustrated with that move. Kenneth, not really sure what he was doing there again, but you got to think it was some kind of strategy that turned south on him a little bit.
That's definitely true. And also to mention, I mean, the lap trucks are in the mix as well. They're all over the place. And we talked about the side-by-side battles that really aren't for track position. Those lap trucks are on a different route, of course, in the final 27, trying to make sure they can be in the highest place possible or maybe even unlap themselves. And for Keith Bradley, lap truck going to be in the way. Some contact with Christopher Blanchard, and that may open the door for Tyler Dittmer in the 34.
It is going to open the door for Dittmer. He makes a move down to the inside. Now he's able to roll the corner very nicely. We'll be able to see if he's able to clear here off of 4, and he will, Kenneth.
And so Dittmer makes the move and saw the opportunity come out of nowhere. And so Dittmer now in his second, but the gap 2 seconds strong to Ted Wade. I think this long green flag run may be the one that Wade needs just to settle through and get away from everybody else. And now here comes Jose Luis Rivera. Got over the 5 of Jacob Klinkart, and this time inside turn 1 on the 29 of Bradley.
Yeah, and I think that contact there really upset Bradley's truck because he's just having a hard time getting the momentum going again now, as you see Rivera there taking a move to the inside on him.
He saw the move by Rivera. Remember, we still questioned the call to come down pit road, but now it looks to be just a call, or at least a caution that came out at the right time for him track position-wise, because he moves up to 3rd. And we'll have a little bit of a long road as some almost contact happens there. That was Bradley and a lap truck. And the caution does come out, though, on behalf of the 00 Huck Wigington around on the straightaway. He tows it to pit road, and I figure there was some help. And the answer is yes. 81 Taylor Peacock.
We'll see what happens here. Peacock does kind of get a run there off the corner, but yeah, you got to give a little bit more room than that. Although I will say the 00 there, Wigington was down the racetrack a little bit, but so hard to stay off another truck, especially when you're trying to get a good drive off the corner, Kenneth.
And there's the hit. I almost anticipated it was maybe the 51 of Tony Smith, but it was not the 51 machine on behalf of Mission 1 Esports. So it was 00 of Wigington going around with the contact from Peacock, and Peacock's race has gone from solid up at the front to very tough in the rear side of the field. Now, after that 3-wide incident there with Brady LeBuff, it's just been all down south from there. I mean, even for LeBuff, same deal for those guys. The race turned around at the worst possible time, and now they're just stuck in the field. Brady LeBuff in 12th, but you think about it, he's basically in the hornet's nest of the field. And then now with that most recent incident, Taylor Peacock, he's currently 1 lap down in P16, as we currently at the moment have 11 trucks on the lead lap. Now LeBuff goes a lap down. So their races just went from solid point stays of survival from the Paperclip to, my goodness, I need to get out of here quick. I want to go to Nashville already.
Yeah, and it just goes to show too how fast that could change. I mean, like you said, 1 second you're running up there at the top of the pack, and then you get turned. And we mentioned it so many times before that once you get caught in the hornet's nest, as you put it, Kenneth, it's so hard to find yourself getting into a momentum and getting into a place where you feel comfortable with your truck, and it just leads to more mistakes, and even all these mistakes are leading to frustration. So it makes it just harder and harder as these laps tick on, and we get later in this race for the drivers to stay mentally sharp and really try to get their best racing product out there on the track.
That's a good point you make there, Ian. The mental acuity that just gets shaved off every time a caution comes out. And I've been in situations in the sim. I've raced here at Martinsville. I understand just that the cautions will come out at some point, but then when it's yellow after yellow after yellow, you start to think, man, and then it continues going, and then you just start to get less focused and less accurate on your inputs, and more sort of wavered off by anything else and trying to distract yourself as opposed to what's actually going on in the race as the night has fallen in sim. And for Ted Wade, even the other drivers in the field, I can imagine the frustration of just wanting to run this thing to the end. And, you know, Ted Wade, like you said, Ian, he wants to get to the checkered flag as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to have these delays in a race that has basically been all him ever since he took the lead away. And so the caution's definitely not helping, as I think we will get the 1 to green signal from the pace truck, but I maybe anticipate that we'll have an extension of the yellow based on the fact that the field behind isn't necessarily lined up 100%.
Yeah, you got a few trucks dropping to the back, but there is one saving grace here tonight, Kenneth. I don't know if you know what that is.
The hot dogs?
Well, there is that, but we only have 2 green-white checkered attempts. So this race will end at some point tonight. There is that, at least for these drivers. It's not going to go on in perpetuity, but with unlimited green-white checkers.
That is true. 2 green-white checkers available for us tonight. Ted Wade up and away, and again, the masterclass restart by the Upfront Motorsports Silverado clears him into turn 1. Tyler Dittmer has found a place in P2. We'll see if Bradley has anything to say about it. Jose Luis Rivera again in a side-by-side battle. Turn 3, this is with Jacob Klinkart, but we saw him make quick work of the 5 in the last run, and he does so again at a turn 4. So clear Rivera back into P4. Cody Knott and company trying to hold on as they're side-by-side for 7th. Jonathan Munda, we saw him going backwards going into turn 1, and now he's getting passed by the 78, Keith Haney, this time on the back straightaway.
And Keith Haney there was hanging around the top 10 all day long, having a solid run. Hasn't really challenged up at the front of the pack anytime tonight, Kenneth, but really good points day for him. He's up there in the top half in points too, really just trying to put a good solid run out at the racetrack, and has done a good job of staying out of trouble so far.
It's been a nice job keeping the truck clean. And here's Brady LaBeouf to the outside. That is on Jonathan Munda, but again, Brady LaBeouf is the first truck 1 lap down, so that is not for position, and he may catch up to Keith Haney and put a footnote there, a stranglehold into that battle. They have closed in 1, 2, 3. Ted Wade has not pulled away as much as he would like. It's half a second to Tyler Dittmer, but it's maintained rather even, and it has stayed there. It has stagnated. It hasn't grown too much, but Ted Wade trying to run away in the final 13 laps from Martinsville. Maybe we get a caution into the last stage of the race, but for now, Wade smooth sailing to the front.
Yeah, really smooth there. You saw Dittmer last time by coming off at 2, got really loose, but that time there was able to make it stick. But right now I'm looking at the 29 truck of Keith Bradley. He's able to actually close the gap on Dittmer. It seems a little bit faster than Dittmer's closing any kind of gap on Wade. So I think it's going to be a battle here for 2 and 3 spot here in a second, Kenneth. But we're coming only here on 11 laps to go this time by, and we have a caution again.
There's the caution. And we'll see who might have been around here on the recent yellow. There had to have been somebody in trouble. It looks to be the 48, Robert Richards. We saw him involved in a couple of other crashes here tonight. And it looks like he has also been DQ'd from the session. So he, again, another driver added onto that list. And it was, this time, no help. Single car spin in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, and that one there, I think, was just talking about maybe some of the mental sharpness and deteriorating tires at the same time there, Kenneth, and just let him there to maybe get on the brakes a little bit too hot, maybe at the brake bias set a little bit wrong, and just takes the back end out of that truck. We haven't seen much of that tonight, but it's also something that's really easy to do here at Martinsville, especially when you're transitioning from that asphalt section onto the concrete section that's on the turns.
So we'll be under yellow. Obviously, we will not step into our green-white checkers, 2 available that we have tonight. Brady LaBeouf has just gone around the pace truck, so he will unlap himself. He'll get the lucky dog, and he will take over P11 on the racetrack. So that's good news for the 9 to pick up what he lost after the crash going into turn 1 involving Taylor Peacock on the inside. And if we do want to categorize who is in our NASRA 360 Hard Charger Award placement so far, if it stays this way, it will go to the 39 of Dane Hagen. Started 35th, and he is up to P8 on the racetrack. So Hagen, if he holds on, he can get the Hard Charger Award here from the virtual Martinsville Speedway. But of course, Ian, we've seen so many things change, and that Hard Charger Award winner could be changed in a matter of moments based on how often these yellows have flown. And we'll see if Hagen can hold on. He's done a solid job to clear himself and have some good rhythms on the restarts, but I mean, he just has to hope that he's not stuck in a precarious situation where he gets spun around or he gets hit and something worse happens to him.
You're absolutely right, but if you're a driver, you'd rather have yourself in that situation where you're up in the top 10 where something that can happen rather than hanging around back maybe in P24, P25 all day long and getting caught up in something there. So really good job by the 39 truck of Dane Hagen moving his way all the way up through the field today, whether it be just driving or a combination of pit strategy. Just happens to find himself up here in the top 10 with only a handful of laps to go.
So lights are still going to stay on here on behalf of the iRacing official pace truck as we enter our final laps here in the Paperclip. And I do want to correct myself. This is the Pultz Poppers 175, not the Pultz Poppers 150. I've been calling it that for most of the race, but obviously a lot of the cautions haven't helped. I've been somewhat loopy, I guess, a little bit on that front. It is the Pultz Poppers 175 based on the fact that we obviously have 175 laps here from Martinsville. Now the lights are off. On the pace truck, Ted Wade, Tyler Dittmer, 2 in the 34, row number 1. Keith Bradley, Jose Luis Rivera to your row number 2. Jacob Klinkart in the 5, rounding out your top 5. Cody Knott to his outside in P6. Keith Haney in 7th. Dane Hagen, our biggest mover so far, in 8th. Jonathan Munda in 9th. And Michael McKinnon to your top 10. Remember also, Brady LaBeouf just got the wave round. He's at the tail end of the field. He is in P11 on the lead lap. Pace truck is down. Could this be the final restart from Martinsville? We'll just see. Ted Wade jumping on the gun in the Geico restart zone. We're back on our way. Outside lane with a sluggish start. And here comes Keith Bradley to the inside for turn 1.
If Bradley able to make it stick on Dittmer that entire time, I've been really interested to see what the 29 truck of Keith Bradley could do if he's able to chase down Ted Wade. But as we say so many times in racing, kind of especially late in races, catching him is one thing, passing them is another.
And so far, the field has had no competition there when it comes to being against Ted Wade. It looks like ever since Wade gets a jump on the restart, nobody has been as fast as him. And that last time by, it shows it. Almost a full 1/10 of a second of a difference in lap time. Wade with a 20.2, Keith Bradley with a 20.3, and that time by another 10th gain for Ted Wade. 19 seconds. 0.8, it's 19 seconds. 0.9 for Keith Bradley. So Ted Wade trying to run away in the final 3 laps.
Yeah, and if you're Ted Wade, this is what you've been hoping for all night long after seeing all these cautions and all these trucks spinning in front of you all night. Is just open racetrack between you and the checkered flag with 3 laps to go now.
Ted Wade praying to the racing gods that no caution comes out. Tyler Dittmer now on the hunt for second. He tries to dive bomb into turn 3 and can't find the space underneath Keith Bradley, but Ted Wade to the line for 2 laps to go from the Paperclip.
2 laps to go, and Dittmer still all over the back bumper of Bradley. This has allowed the 20 truck of Jose Luis Rivera now to move on the back bumper of Dittmer, but you gotta love what you're seeing if you're Ted Wade out of your rearview mirror. 2, 3, and 4 all battling for position, coming to a white flag here from Martinsville Raceway.
Here comes Dittmer to the inside, but shuts the door. Bradley does into turn 1. Ted Wade, his teammate Chris Cinnamon, he gave the push to him to win at Daytona. His teammate locked in the playoffs, and Ted Wade will join him for Upfront Motorsports out of turn 4. The win of the Pultz Poppers 175 goes to the 2 of Ted Wade.
Yeah, and a great battle there for second and third place. Keith Bradley and Tyler Dittmer, a drag race there. Bradley able to beat him out just barely for second place, kind of.
Dittmer put up a fight worth noting, but falls short of it. Jose Luis Rivera was the 3rd truck in that trio. and he didn't have enough time to get up to them, although you got to give credit to Rivera having a lot of pace behind that Silverado, and all of them stop just in that Geico restart zone, watching the celebration for Ted Wade, his first win of the season. And also Ian becomes the third different winner in our first 3 races. No repeat winners the entire season so far, as Ted Wade will burn it down from Martinsville.
Yeah, that's a cool one too. Martinsville's kind of a tight track, so it's kind of tough to do burnouts. I really enjoy the straight line burnout here. You really actually don't see that very often, Kenneth.
I think it's a lot better than doing the 360 burnouts that could send you into the wall. I know a couple of times in even real life NASCAR where they've hit the wall trying to celebrate, but Ted Wade does the burnout, comes to a stop, and that is it. He will head for virtual victory lane for the first time in this 2022 NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series season. We'll take a look at your full field results where everybody lines up at the end of 175 laps. Unfortunately, we do not use our 2 allowable green-white checkered restarts to end. Ted Wade, your winner for Upfront Motorsports. Again, like I mentioned, join his teammate Chris Cinnamon as the 2 Upfront Motorsports trucks to be locked into the playoffs this year. A great fight at the end for Keith Bradley after starting 12th, picked up some damage on the opening start, and he was able to get back to second. Your pole sitter, Tyler Dimmer, had a lot of pace and tried to get to the inside of Keith Bradley before it was all said and done. Did not have enough time to execute the move. He ends up the last driver in the top 3. Jose Luis Rivera, we saw a phantom pit stop as the caution came out. We anticipated something might have happened to the 20 track position-wise, but fortunately, he stays in the game, and he ends up P4. Jacob Klinkart rebounds after some troubles earlier on tonight to round out your top 5. You'll have Cody Knott behind him in the 26 truck. You have Keith Haney in P7. Dane Hagen officially does win the NASRA 360 Hard Charger Award after starting 35th. He does indeed hold on for 8th. It'll be Jonathan Munda into 9th, and Michael McKinnon, Ian, to round out the top 10.
Brady the Buff comes across in the 11th spot after a rough up and down night for him. And ironically enough, the 81 truck of Taylor Peacock comes in right behind him. You remember that 3-wide incident they had earlier, and they finished 11th and 12th right next to each other. Brandon Bullock in 13th place. Christopher Blanchard, who had a few incidents all night long, none really his fault, but able to finish in P14. Matt Rudder is going to ride out your top 15 after a bit of a gutsy pit decision to stay out after the second stage. Raul Meza, after having some rough sledding, comes in at P16, 1 lap down. Tony Smith, P17 to the 51 truck, and Stephen Thomas, it finishes 5 laps down. Huck Wigington of the 00 truck, kind of a rough night for him, finishes P19, and Brian Abbott rounds out your top 20, Kenneth.
Everybody 21st on back, 13 laps down or more, starting with the 48 of Robert Richards. He got DQ'd. Same deal for the 94 of Eric Zimmerman, who finishes 22nd. Justin Lumpkin started 7th, but he ends up 23rd, 16 laps down. It'll be 19 laps down for the 24 of Zach Hartwick. James Morrison, the 47, is 25th. 26 will go to Adam Newbert in the 4. We saw some shines out of him tonight, but unfortunately fall short. Same deal for Derek Kilgore, who was at one point the Hard Charger Award winner until he got into trouble going into turn 1. He is 27. James Haney is 28th. Jason Morales is in 29th, and it'll be Lucas Whitehead in the 88. Had some troubles ever since the very start, and he rounds out your top 30 here. The rest of the drivers as they follow. Joey Doucette, your winner at Homestead of Miami Speedway a week ago, cannot replicate the success here tonight from the Paperclip. Jose Castellanos got DQ'd as well. He is 32nd. Devin Painter, 33rd. Torrey Thompson, 34th. And Adam Cantwell, one of the first drivers to disconnect in the session in the 8 truck, rounds out your 35 truck field in the Pultz Poppers 175. So now it's our time to take it from the results to trackside and victory lane, where we are joined by the number 2 machine of Ted Wade, who gets his very first win of this NASRA Pulling M Truck Series season, or Triple M Pulling Truck Series season, as I should say, and basically walks off with it. Ted, I know a lot of cautions came out in the race. I know a lot of stop-and-go action for most of the event, but it looked like ever since you took the lead, this 2 truck was insanely fast. Walk us through how you feel winning tonight and the state of the truck after 175 grueling laps.
Oh man, it feels great. Finally get a win out of the way early. Hopefully we can continue that streak going. But man, that was a painstaking long race. I know you had to be out front. That was the main thing. Stay out front. Whoever was out front was going to win it because of the yellows and the way they were falling.
And the caution certainly created definitely a lot of decisions and a lot of patience there as well. How important was that patience also? I mean, you were in the lead for most of it, and you spent a lot of that time behind the iRacing official pace truck. So how was it to maintain the patience, to continue for those restarts, and how were you able to sort of keep yourself toned down for this entire race where, you ran away with it for the restarts, and then the caution come out and you get brought right back into the same cycle?
Yeah, it was definitely rough. I just tried to keep my composure there. And I know Dittmer, he fell back. If he was on the outside in second, I was hoping he was going to fall to third. I could pull away a little bit until he worked his way back up there. And I knew if it was him or Keith there at the end, we were definitely going to put up a fight, and I was going to run as hard as I could.
So your first win of the season here in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series from Martinsville, and you join your teammate Chris Cinnamon. Remember, we talked to you at Daytona and the push you gave to Cinnamon for his first win of the year, and then you follow through 2 races later here at Martinsville. What does it mean to join your teammate as the 2 drivers of the Upfront Motorsports camp officially locked into the playoffs and not having to worry about points racing for the rest of the season?
Oh, it is great. definitely nice to get this out of the way early. Same way with Chris. I know he's missing a few races here. Hopefully he gets back, and we get these other Upfront Motorsport guys up here in the box.
So now last question before you send you off and let you celebrate here for the Martinsville Speedway win. Nashville Super Speedway up next. Now that you're locked in, what's the approach for the regular season? You got anything up your sleeve for the couple of tracks next on the calendar?
Just go out and run them, see where we finish, maybe do some stuff other guys aren't doing, and see if we can snag another win.
Well, that sounds good, Ted. Of course, on behalf of our team here at Racecraft TV, want to thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us. And on behalf, again, on our team, a huge congratulations on the win here in the Pultz Poppers 175. Go enjoy it. We'll see you at Nashville next week.
Thanks, guys. I just want to give a quick shout out real quick to Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling. He jumped on board with us this year for a sponsorship. Bruzy Racewear, Triple M Pulling, you guys at Racecraft, NASRA, Over the Top Designs. Thank all of you.
So that's Ted Wade, your first time winner here in the season from Martinsville. He takes the Pultz Poppers 175. We'll have a chance to talk to the driver who comes from behind him in P2. Ian Fisher, you're caught up with the 29 of Keith Bradley.
Well, Keith Bradley, welcome into the Racecraft TV booth. Congratulations on your second place finish tonight. I got to ask here, though, first, I'm looking at a stat. It said we had 18 cautions tonight, for 96 laps. What's that like inside the driver's seat to be able to keep the mental composure? And what's your game plan in a race like that where yellow after yellow just keeps coming out?
Well, I mean, you really got to stay focused and try to somewhat stay in a rhythm. And it was difficult, but I mean, it never failed. As soon as you got in a good rhythm, a yellow would come out, and then you had to regroup yourself. And in my case, it didn't help that I was involved in that big checkup on the start. So.
Yeah, we're looking at a shot of your 29 truck now rounding, looks like turn 3 and 4 here. And yeah, I'm looking at some of the damage there. Did that affect the car in any way? Or I'm sorry, the truck in any way? Or were you able to just kind of keep pushing on there? Because it looked like you were the only truck that could have possibly had something for Ted Wade all night long.
Honestly, yeah. The truck was fine. I lost a little bit of drive off, which that's to be expected. I mean, my truck was beat to heck and back. But, I mean, all in all, I'm real happy with the finish.
Yeah, solid P2 tonight is definitely going to set you up for this tough stretch of races we've got coming up. We've got a few tracks here. We got Nashville, Sonoma, Talladega, and then Darlington the next 4 races. Any of those really stand out to you and looking to have a good run there?
Yeah, all of them. Last season, we won majority of our races at those tracks other than Sonoma. So, yeah, I feel pretty good going into them.
And it definitely helps getting a P2 finish tonight. That's really got to help with the confidence. And on behalf of everybody here at Racecraft TV, Keith, congratulations on your P2 finish. Really great drive tonight.
Yeah, thanks. After the first 2 races missing Daytona and then the internet going out at Homestead, we really needed a run tonight. And real quick, I just want to thank all my sponsors, Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling, Bruzy Racewear, Over the Top Designs, NASRA, Triple M Pulling, Butt Kicker, NASRA 360, which is our new podcast, Pultz Poppers, and Starbase Comics, and you guys for everything you guys do for us.
Well, thank you again, Keith, and congratulations on your P2 again. And Kenneth, like he mentioned, I think if you didn't have a little bit of that damage that he suffered at the beginning of the race, he would have been one up there challenging for the lead as well.
But even then, still, second place finish. You got to give a lot of props to the 29, even with that damage. And he held off a rather clean truck. It was Tyler Dittmer in the 34 who started on pole here tonight, got the Pultz Popper pole award, and he ends up in third after 175 laps. Now we bring in Tyler. And before we talk about the gravity of this entire race here from Martinsville, walk us through that battle in the final laps. You and Keith Bradley going at it. Looked like you had some momentum to get around. What more did you need there to get P2?
You have to hit him, and I'm not going to do that to Keith. I try to race clean. I think most of the guys see me as one of the cleaner drivers on the circuit, and I try not to wreck people. And I wasn't going to do that to Keith. Him and I have a pretty good relationship, so it's not worth throwing that away for nothing. It's one more point. It's not going to change the world. It's not like either of us were going to win at that point in the race. So just race smart, kept us both going, and we both got to get out of there with a nice podium.
Still indeed a nice podium, and we'll talk about the entirety of the race. I know a lot of cautions came out, and you were sort of around the front of the field for most of the event. I mean, the clean truck definitely shows it, apart from some of that left front damage. How was it to sort of get around the patience levels with a lot of the cautions, and how it was to try to survive here at a track that definitely tests even the best of competitors on the sim?
Yeah, I mean, I messed it up. I sped on pit road at the end of stage 2, so I was up front top 3 pretty much the entire first 84 laps, and sped and went back to 21st and actually drove my way through the field. Didn't get a bunch of guys pulling out for pit road, actually made passes, and that's where I got that left front damage. Was a wreck just happened in front of me, and I tried to sneak through the top side and just barely clipped him. So yeah, patience was a thing tonight, and I think that showed with my battle with Keith at the end. And I had to run a patient race, and my teammates were like, "Don't force it." And I'm like, "I'm not going to force it." Like if I was like fully alongside of him, I'd go for the pass, but I just had a nose in there, and I'm not going to wreck a bunch of people for that. It's just not how I run. So you just have to be patient and race each other with respect. And I think Keith and I showed that to each other tonight. So hopefully we can move on from here and go race at an intermediate next week. That'd be sweet to me.
So a solid finish here from one of the shortest tracks on the schedule. And then, of course, you say now we get to go to an intermediate. And it's not the typical 1.5-mile track, but it is way larger than Martinsville Nashville Super Speedway, which holds its own set of challenges. What are your thoughts about going to Lebanon, Tennessee for the 4th race of the year, and then the rest of the calendar to follow?
I'm glad we're getting away from short tracks. It was funny. I said in an interview earlier today that I suck at short tracks, and then I go put it on the pole and finish 3rd. So maybe I don't suck at anything. But no, I'm glad to go to intermediates. Every win I've gotten in this series has been on intermediate, either Vegas or Texas. And I want to redeem myself after, I think, having one of the best cars at Daytona and getting wrecked out at the end of stage 2. So really, I'm not looking forward to the road courses, but I think they're kind of fun in their own right. I'm just not very good. So we'll move on, and we'll look at the rest of the schedule, and we'll keep attacking it. It's a good, challenging schedule, a bunch of different tracks. So it's really going to test drivers to their limits in all forms of racing.
And we definitely agree with you there. I know Ian and I were talking about it up here in the broadcast booth about the diversity of the schedule and how important it is for drivers to master that before they end up in the playoffs. But Tyler, on behalf of our team here at Racecraft TV, of course, want to send you a warm congratulations on the P3 finish here tonight from the Paperclip and the Pultz Poppers 175. And of course, looking forward to seeing you at the rest of the season and including our next week's race at Nashville Super Speedway. Best of luck.
Thanks. If I can just do a quick shout out, I just want to thank my family for all their support. Pultz Poppers, Butt Kicker, Starbase Comics, NASRA, Triple M Pulling Truck Series, NASRA 360. You guys put on a great show. Appreciate everything you guys do. And I'd like to do a special shout out to my dad who's watching tonight, and my fiance for all the support, giving up Friday nights to run this league. So appreciate it. And thanks, guys.
So it's Tyler Dittmer in the 34 from the pole and ends up P3 here tonight in the Pultz Poppers 175. From the virtual Martinsville Speedway. So the night has fallen, Ian, and wow, a lot of stuff definitely happened in the race tonight from the Paperclip. I don't know if I'm fully 100% refreshed, but Ted Wade, I mean, you got to give him so much credit in this race. I think the cleanest truck throughout the entire field by far. And, follows in the footsteps of his teammate, Chris Cinnamon. He got helped by Ted Wade to get to the finish at Daytona first. And Ted Wade joining him in the playoffs, I think that's going to be a huge momentum booster, not only for the survivability of a driver like Ted Wade in these tough situations when cautions continue to fly out, but most importantly, just the win overall, setting him up for the rest of the season.
Oh, no doubt. Getting that win under your belt early is crucial, especially in such a long series that we have as we do here in NASRA. And the season's going to go all the way into December, Canada. So getting a win under your belt here in July just really makes you breathe easy for the rest of the season. You can maybe take a little bit more of a gamble going for a win or possibly going for a spot, but it also gives you the luxury of taking it easy and not risking anything too much and just setting yourself up for a long playoff run if that is your end goal. So really good job by Ted Wade, a really great drive there, but all of our drivers as well. It was a caution-filled race, but that's Martinsville, Kenneth. It's to be expected, but I think everybody did as good as they possibly could here on the tiny paperclip, and a really exciting race for everybody watching at home.
Definitely so. The brevity of the win, important for Ted Wade as he enters butt kicker victory lane and wins round number 3 here in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series and the Pultz Poppers 175. So for everybody at the NASRA Truck Series, for all of their work making these races happen each and every week, and on behalf of all of us here at Racecraft TV, for our producer tonight, Zach Johnson, and my colleague in the booth, Ian Fisher, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying thank you so much for tuning in tonight from Martinsville, and congratulations to Ted Wade on his first win of the season. We'll see you 1 week from tonight, Friday night, Nashville Super Speedway. We'll see you over there from the Music City.